there is one interpretation of dreaming, that it's a means of accessing your unconscious mind, which may contain things that are hidden from you in conscious life. But one thing that has been cited quite often is that it's a means of inspiring creativity. And I've got a couple of cases of where people have actually come up with ideas from their dreams. And I think the way that this works, if it's a phenomenon, is that you have something playing on your conscious mind, and it perhaps is a preoccupation of yours, and then it becomes such a totalizing thing that it becomes a problem that you tackle in your unconscious mind. So I'll be able to explain it a bit better once I've done this first one. So Paul McCartney said that the melody for the song Yesterday came to him in a dream in 1964, and he woke up with the tune in his head and initially thought that it was a song he'd heard before, and eventually realised that it was something that he came up with. Wow. And I wanted to say that I've dreamt about coming up with a song in my sleep, and it was one of the best songs I'd ever heard in my entire life. It was like perfect, exactly the kind of song I wanted to listen to. And then I tried to transcribe it on a guitar. And after about a couple of minutes of trying to figure out the first part, the sort of sound of my failed attempts to copy it had drowned out the original song, and I kind of forgot what it actually sounded like by that point. And I was just like, well, this is impossible, because I know what it sounds like, but I don't know how to play it on the guitar because it's just so out there.
Like Tribute by Tenacious D, the greatest song in the world.
I didn't expect a Tenacious D reference, but I do really enjoy the Pick of Destiny film. But yeah, it goes to show that what occupies your mind and conscious life might actually be resolved by a dream. Like I didn't go to sleep and think, well, I'm going to ruminate about writing a song. I'd just been playing guitar, coming up with my own stuff that evening, and then went to bed, and then woke up again with this song in my head, just like, wow, that was amazing. And I suppose it also goes to show that, because I wouldn't have been able to come up with that if I were conscious, like just the intricacy of the sounds and that sort of thing, devising an entire song. You can kind of imagine it for a little bit, but it's not nearly as good as the one in my dream. So it almost seems like my greatest creative potential is when I'm not conscious, which I suppose is why people talk about artists getting into that flow state, because you're not necessarily conscious, you're just purely focused on what you're doing. And some of my best musical work has come from getting into that flow state where I'm just playing. I'm not focusing on the notes I'm playing, I'm just putting them together, and they work, and work far better than anything I could sit down and consciously hash out. So there's an interesting aspect to the creativity element of dreaming that shouldn't necessarily be sniffed at. It seems like there is something there. And here's another example of an idea that came from a dream, and that is by Dmitry Mendeleev, who I believe you should be familiar with, is the Russian chemist who developed the first periodic table. And apparently he dreamed that he saw an arrangement of elements in the table where there were blank spaces for elements to be added, as in there were gaps there, and therefore he woke up immediately and wrote it all down, this idea, which he eventually enacted. But clearly this was a problem that occupied him in waking life. It wasn't like he had no interest in chemistry and then dreamt up the periodic table. He was a chemist.
Yeah.
So it's creativity relative to what you're actually interested in. You've got to have that potential in you for the dream to then make it bubble up to the surface. But it is interesting that you've got to be unconscious to get that.
I've got a very, very limited, lame example of that myself. Not too long ago, I was racking my brain in the waking world about what to do an epoch song. And then in a hypnagogic state between snoozes, I came up with the Battle of Kursk, and we did that. But when I was trying to actively think of something, curse didn't cross my mind at all.
I think,
But in my dreams, it did.
I think what's going on
And then
there,
I remembered that, and I was like, "That's a good idea."
I think what's going on there is that you're activating different neural pathways, and when you're conscious, you go down the same neural pathways. It's well trodden. I'm really stretching the analogy far there, but
That makes sense.
these neural networks, you have different paths that you more reliably go down. That's why it's difficult to break habits, because certain behaviours are highly salient with certain environmental stimuli. To be a bit more jargony, but that basically means that when you're put in a similar situation, the same sorts of ideas come up again and again, which seems unsurprising. I've actually had it before where people who I've known for many, many years, I've been with them and we've come into a situation and I've said something and they've said, "You said that exactly the same way as you did last time when you're in the same situation." And she's like, "Oh, I don't remember that." And they're like, "Yeah." And then I feel like I've lost any claim to being a conscious entity. But it can happen in conscious life, I think. But there are also cases of nightmares giving people ideas as well. So Mary Shelley, famous for, of course, writing Frankenstein, apparently she had a nightmare in 1816 while staying at Lord Byron's house in Switzerland, and she said that in her dream she saw a pale student of unhallowed arts creating a living being from dead bodies, which gave her the idea to write the novel. And Elias Howe, I think it is, or Howie, the inventor of the sewing machine, this one's a bit more abstract, but he came up with the idea for the sewing machine after having a dream where he was chased by cannibals wielding spears with holes in them, and supposedly this led him to develop the concept of a needle with an eye at the pointed end which could pierce the fabric and then be caught by the shuttle carrying a second thread.
Wow.
So I don't understand how he got that from being chased by cannibals with spears with holes in them, but well done to him for doing so. But yeah, it seems like there is a creative force in humanity in the world of dreams, and I suppose nightmares as well. I presume being chased by cannibals with spears would be a nightmare. Although it did have a positive effect for him. But I can't say I've ever had an idea in a dream, really. I've had really strange experiences that seemed very real and vivid, that have kind of shaped how I view the world in a small sense, but nothing that's been like groundbreaking.
No, me neither. Well, you wake up and you're like, no.
I've had lots of interesting dreams that sound like plots to films and stuff like that, where I've had things where I've been abducted by aliens and had to act as a mediating translator to the rest of Earth or something like that.
A lot of my dreams are bizarre and disjointed and disconnected and don't make any real sense. Yeah, most of my dreams are like that. It's not like really a structured story here as such, or certainly no great groundbreaking eureka idea or anything like that.
Most of mine are sort of an echo of a real world sensation, if you will, in that they're sort of a weird representation of what conscious experience is, and sometimes they're quite boring and ordinary.
Oh yeah, most of my dreams are really dull. There's not much action, usually.
That's normally a sign of good psychological health, though. If you have lots of sort of perfunctory, boring dreams, it means that you don't have many conflicts to resolve in the first place.
Well, usually like my inner world within the dream, within my own mind, because is quite complicated or quite a lot going on, but the world and what's going on isn't all that amazing. Like sometimes a chase scene or something, but not all that often.
I've had really, really boring dreams before. Like I had a dream I had to post a letter, and I dreamt that I wrote the address on, I put the stamp on, and then I went off to walk to the post box, and then I walked back, and that was it. It's like, wow, thanks for that. It's like doing chores while I'm unconscious. This is the one time that's mine, and my brain's making me do boring old chores.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.